All right. We are live. We're doing this. We're live.
Well, here we go.
All right. Started a little bit early, but it's all good. We're here now. So, what's going on, John the Mulatto? We've been kind of talking back and forth for a minute on social media. It's definitely a pleasure to have you up here. We have a lot to talk about. So, if you could just maybe give kind of a brief introduction about yourself, let the kind of listeners, the audience know a little bit about you and your journey to how you started to kind of embrace being a mulatto man.
Well, I'm lucky in a lot of ways that my parents they they identified me as a mulatto when I was young, and that's all the race discussion we ever had. They didn't make it about race. Like my mother's white, my father's black, and they didn't make it about race. They just wanted to have it as normal as possible. Sometimes I wish they had talked about race a bit more to prepare me for the life as it would have been growing up in the '80s when we were still considered abominations for a while. But yeah, they just left it at that, and they didn't like. My father was never one to really dwell on his race. My mother's white, so she didn't really worry about her race. And I grew up in Canada, in Toronto, or Toronto, as most of you know it. Um, I grew up in a multicultural neighborhood of different races, mainly white, I suppose. And really, I knew two other, aside from my brother and sister, I knew two other mulattoes growing up, uh, two brothers, and that was it. We were that few and far between in like my whole city. Um, and then as I got older and so I started meeting more, there was the big mulatto explosion in the '90s when suddenly like everybody was having mulatto babies. My high school had to open a daycare at school. That was interesting. And yeah, now I'm an older Gen X mulatto who hears a lot of crap about why you're not supposed to call yourself mulatto and all this other garbage.
Yeah, man, that's real interesting. Yeah, we shouldn't use the word. It's a bad word. And who says that, right? Who says that? The people who want to control you because they understand that language and labels are extremely important, right? And so if they can get you to say something and control how you speak and think. I mean, they got you right there, right? With the language, the vocabulary is extremely important. But you mentioned something about your kind of upbringing, and as far as how race wasn't mentioned, I find that to be true with a lot of us. With our parents, even like my mom used to tell me as a kid, oh, it doesn't matter about your race or something. There's bad people in every race and all that stuff. Which I guess, yeah, it's true for sure. But as you get older, navigating society, you realize there's a lot of tribalism. There are groups, there are races, and I think we're in a time now where a lot of us need to respect the integrity of all these other groups instead of trying to force us into a group that we don't exactly belong in. I know a lot of people want to play games and try to convince us that we're a part of this group or that we belong to this group as a subgroup to
But we
serve them.
don't,
We don't, though. Yeah,
and we're not treated as we do.
exactly.
Every mulatto will be claimed by blacks when they do something good until they
Precisely.
shine too bright. And then it's like, oh, you think you're better? You think you're
Right.
this? It's because
Right.
you're light skinned, because you have light eyes, because you got good hair, and all these different things. There's constant, I don't know, what's the millennial word? Microaggressions?
Yeah. No,
But
for sure. Like for sure. And even what I wanted to say with that is you see that with this Ice Spice rapper, right? People are basically saying how she's kind of like a plant, so to speak, right?
it's ridiculous. Like the hatred that mulattoes go through from, well, just mainly black community is really hard. It's like you want to support the black community because that's half of you, but they don't want to support you. They just want to like remind you, they tell you that you're black, but then remind you how you're not. It's this constant. Um, I've never like with white people. Yeah, white people have called me black, and if I correct them, they're like, "Oh, okay, cool." And that's the end of it. Black people, you correct them, and they're like, "What? You ashamed to be black?" And it's like, no, I'm just not. I'm 100% mulatto. I'm not. I'm not half black, half white. I'm 100% mulatto. That's the way I look at it. Oh, did I lose you? Oh, one moment. I think we've lost Mulatto Vanguard here. Oh, there you are.
Hey, sorry about that.
No worries. But yeah, one thing that was really hard growing up, um, and I can't tell if this was a racial issue or a cultural issue, but I didn't feel like I had a community. I did, like, I'd see the black community, I'd see the white community, I'd see the Indian community, and then the cultural communities, like the Italian community, the Greek community, all the different communities. And it was hard not having my own community to ever feel a part of. And
Yeah.
that's the one thing that when Facebook first came around in I don't know, 2006, 2007, whatever it was, um, I joined a group called Mulatto Mafia, and it was amazing to realize that there were so many of us. Now these groups got a lot more political in the years since, but at the beginning it was just all mulattoes coming together and just realizing that there was more of us because we're always so scattered. There's never, like, unless you're in New Orleans, basically, there's never going to be a large collection of us.
Yeah, like the term I often use is fragmented, right?
Yeah, that's a
Definitely
good one.
fragmented. And a lot of us are kind of trying to figure things out on our own by ourselves, trying to get in where we fit in. But with social media, this powerful tool, we realize we're connecting with each other. Like there's a lot more of us than we know, right?
Yeah, there definitely is. And the younger ones are the one I worry about most because of social media. It's a blessing and it's a curse because, as you and I have both seen with different like TikTok, for instance, where we've gone to support mulattoes on there because they're just getting picked on, and it's, I'm not even going to be shy to say it. It's always the black community that's picking on them. Always like, oh, you're ashamed to be black. You're this, and you're just stop. Like, as I said earlier, my father is black, my mother is white, I'm mulatto, and I'm not going to feel ashamed of that. In Canada, we have a mixed race that is on our census called the Métis, which is First Nation or Native and European. That's the term, and then they're on our census. We used to be on the census, but then we were taken off in Canada and the U.S. due to the Jim Crow laws there and the Jim Crow influence here. I want us to get back there. I think we deserve to be there. I think when it comes to mixes, the biracial mix in the States and Canada, we are probably the number one. And we do deserve to have our race recognized. If only so we can just stop being thrown into groups that don't want us.
Yeah. Yeah, and then having this subordinate position where you're always having to outwork people, outperform, and you're having to prove yourselves like you're doing more work than everybody else in your supposed group. Like for me, I always use a reference like, the Pookie or whatever, the dark skinned guy, he can sit on his rear end playing Xbox, smoking blunts, while you, the light skinned mulatto guy, you got to be at the march. You got to be, you got to be at all the protests. You got to be extra pro black to get fake acceptance into their group. And then they can also outgroup you whenever the hell they feel like it. If you say something they don't like, or you don't vote for one of their little Democratic politicians, then they can just say, oh, you ain't black. They'll always use that over you. And the reason why I mention that is because I don't see white people outgrouping and ingrouping mulattoes. I only see it from the black side, the monoracial black group, where there's this massive in-grouping and out-grouping phenomena. Like it's funny, you made a comment that I want to quote. You said that somebody told you, you're black, white boy. But you see how that works? How like they want to claim you for all the wins when they want to use you to benefit you. But at the same time, they want to exercise this outgrouping capability. They can't pull that with anybody else. You remember that comment you
Yeah,
made?
I do remember that. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
funny. It's so accurate though. Yeah,
Well, just think about this. If there ever is a real black president, they'll forget about Obama real quick.
precisely. Oh yeah, I mean that's we see that all across the yeah, precisely. When there's a real black person, they'll forget about Obama. They'll forget about Kamala Harris. They'll forget about Drake.
But
They'll
to be
forget.
fair, I think everyone's forgetting about Kamala Harris already.
Yeah, yeah, she's not. Yeah,
I don't
and then
understand. As a Canadian, I don't understand why she's so unpopular, but nobody seems to like her on either side. So I don't know.
yeah, I think people kind of know she's kind of a tool. She's one of the biggest tools in politics, right? Um, but yeah, someone like her, they'll claim her because they, it's funny. A lot of the black women, the queens, the dark skinned ones, they'll be like, "My president looks like me." A lot of them, I'm telling you, I studied this in social media the past few years. Dark skinned, monoracial black women were all saying, not all of them, not an absolutist, but a lot of them were saying my vice president looks like me. It's the black vice president for me. They were pumping her up. They were all behind her. And she's like, what, 25, 30% African or something? So they were behind supporting her. But when the real black woman, like a Katanji Jackson or somebody pops up, they'll forget about Kamala in a heartpeat. Oh yeah,
Of course.
that's how it always works throughout the history of this nation. I've
And
studied that. Yeah.
even when like somebody like I'm trying to remember her name, Gamora in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, so Zoe Saldana. Yeah,
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 Zoe Saldana.
yeah, yeah.
She is very black presenting, even though she's mixed. She's black presenting in a lot of
Right.
ways. If she says she's black, no one's going to question it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because there's lighter skinned black people who will only call themselves black.
Hmm.
But when she she got in trouble for taking a role where she wasn't dark enough. And
Oh
the
yeah.
colorism only works one way.
Hmm.
Like when it comes to, I'll admit, when it comes to modeling, ads, and a lot of things, they do tend to use the lighter skinned people. Um,
Well, the Mulatta chicks are the hottest chicks. I mean, it makes sense why they're going to get promoted
well,
in
no,
other.
I agree 100%, and that's why. But that's always been the hatred of mulattoes, right? Um, like that was something that even white women back in the day. I don't know how much of the history of Louisiana you've read into, but
Yeah,
quadroons and mulattoes were the most hated women.
yeah, because they can get white men as well. They can get any man. Yeah, exactly.
They always can. And then there's the genetic factor. If you're mulatto, you have better genetics than any monoracial. Like there's always variances, but in general, you will, because honestly, what people don't realize is if you've been in one race that's not diluted in any way, you're carrying all the same genetic deformities. You don't get rid of any. Like I know with the Jewish population, whenever two Jewish people get married, if they're both Sephardic or they're both Ashkenazi Jewish, they have to get blood tests before they can get married to see if they're too close. Because that's what happens when there's no genetic diversity. And it's been proven that anyone who's biracial, not just mulattoes, although we are the cutest, but anybody who's biracial will have less genetic defects on average. It's just one of the benefits of genetic diversity.
Hey, the Blasian chicks are pretty cute too.
Listen, I
Just,
personally
just throwing
find
it out there. Just throwing it
I
out.
personally find biracial people of all types to be generally exotic looking and attractive.
Like Blaxican, black and Mexican. We call them Blaxican.
I thought
Some
they
of
were
them.
I thought that was mestizo or something.
Well, typically mestizo is like the Aztec Indian, and then the Spanish, European Spanish. That's typically the
Oh, okay.
mestizo category, but kind of a more, I guess you can say, general, term, slang term. A lot of
Hmm.
people. I'm from the West Coast, California. They'd say Blaxican. It's kind of a funny thing, but yeah, there's a lot of those type of people. A lot of women. Yeah, they're fine. Yeah, but
Yeah,
for
and like Goa, I don't know if you've heard of Goa.
no, I haven't.
It's in India. They're generally the ones that make it to Bollywood. They're a little bit lighter, and they usually have have like green eyes often. Um, that's because they're basically Indian and Portuguese. It's a whole section of India that's where the Portuguese settled for a long time, and the people there look very different than the rest of India.
Have you been to India yet?
No,
Yeah,
I
I'd like to
haven't.
go. Yeah,
The only Asia I've been to is Egypt.
nice, nice.
Actually, that's not even Asia. That's Africa. Oh my
North
god, what am I
Africa. Yeah.
saying? Yeah. What am I saying? I wanted to go to Turkey, but I don't even know what that's counting anymore. It's like Asia, but part of the EU. I don't know. Took
Yeah,
a
it's
sec.
part. It's part of the EU, isn't it?
Yes.
It's not part of NATO though, if I'm not mistaken.
No.
It's not a NATO nation.
Actually, I'm gonna have to look that up because they might be part of NATO.
Yeah.
Let me
I know
see.
that they have the largest presidential palace there. What is it? The guy who's trying to reemerge the Neo Ottoman Empire, was it Erdogan? Is that his name? The
Yes,
prime minister out there. No, he has the hugest presidential palace on the planet. It's kind of crazy, but it's kind of like the from the Ottoman Turks. I
and
don't know too much.
The Byzantine Empire.
Yeah,
That became the head of the Roman Empire for a long time.
I have a
Um,
student who just went
and
out
yes, they are part since 1951. Actually,
of NATO. You're saying,
yeah,
okay? They're EU and NATO as well.
yeah. EU since the 90s, I think, but NATO since 51.
Now, do they use EU? I mean, the European Union, the dollar, the euro.
They probably have their own currency as well as using like anyone in the EU had to let you use the EU,
Hmm.
but certain countries didn't adopt it as their primary currency. Like England didn't when they were part
Right.
of the EU because
Precisely.
the pound was worth so much more than the euro dollar.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, cool, man. I think kind of, what I really like about what I've been seeing, what you've been doing, is I'll drop a video on TikTok, right? And there's some comments I'll go back and forth with, but I noticed you're very engaged in the comments in TikTok. And I've seen you do that with other people's like videos, topics discussing kind of mulatto identity, asserting ourselves as our own group. And I've definitely applaud you for your efforts because I'm like, man, I don't have the energy. The crazy liberals on TikTok, the wacky people on TikTok, it's insane. But I've noticed, like, yeah, you'll go back and forth with a lot of people, which I like because I'm like, that's pretty cool because I don't have patience for a lot of the crazy like left wing people, man, on TikTok. It's very bizarre. It's new to me.
Well, the thing is, most of the arguments you get are just non intelligible. Like they're just foolish arguments, and they're very easy to dispute. Um, like I had one person who was calling me a watered down Negro. He couldn't spell Negro. He kept spelling knee and then grow. It was just like what? And I was like, I'm not a Negro. You can call me water. You don't even have to call me watered down. I'm full mulatto. Don't worry about me trying to claim the blackness. I'm not trying to claim the whiteness either. I don't want either. I respect that I have half of me is white and half of me is black in terms of my cultural background and racial background. But I have no white experience and no black experience because I'm neither. I'm both, but neither. No one's going to look at me and think, oh, he's black. No one's going to look at me and think, oh, he's white. I'll get 100 other guesses before someone thinks I'm mulatto. They'll think I'm Middle Eastern or Latino. I get Cuban a lot. Israeli, Italian. It's like Southern Italian, especially because of my last name. It's kind of Italian sounding. But it's just most people are surprised when they hear my racial background. But then
Yeah.
at the same time, on TikTok, they'll try and tell me I'm racist. And I'll be like, wait a minute. I thought only white people could be racist. Isn't that something you posted somewhere else? Well, I'm not white, so shut up.
The funny thing I want to say about that is whenever you have a monoracial person who tells you that you're racist or you're anti-black, they're letting you know right there that you're not a part of their group, right? That's what I like
Exactly.
about that. They're letting you know that you're an outsider, you're kind of a agitator, or you're I don't know. I don't know how to say you're not. I don't know how to even express it, but they're letting you know right there. They're outgrouping you. Saying, "Well, you're racist or you're anti-black." Well, I'm not black. I'm mulatto. So if that's the case, then I guess most of the planet's racist, which people would say that's true. I mean, we're living in a system of white supremacy. That's fine, but I mean, I'm partially white. I'm partially black. So I accept myself and I claim myself as a mulatto. There's others out there like me, as this gentleman is here, and there's thousands of others who are discovering this. And I'm not going to be playing this game with these people who want to kind of control me, put me in a subordinate position where I got to fight their battles, and they want to shame me for claiming myself fully. Um, it's crazy. Yeah, TikTok is crazy, man. Like I said, because they'll outgroup you, but then at the same time they'll want you like to stay in their group so they can kind of try to punk you, you know.
Well,
And yeah,
I'm looking at one of your videos right now with somebody I was engaging with, and she said to you, "You can claim whatever you like, but society, especially in America, will always see you as black."
that's false though, because
It,
blacks don't even see us as black. They tell us
exactly.
every damn day that we're different, that you're biracial, you're half breed. That right there, when I started hearing all these blacks refer to biracials as half breeds over the past, few years, I knew right away, okay, we're our own group, we're our own race. I even told my mom this once a few years back. I was like, look, I'm basically my own race out here in this area when I moved to San Diego, because I just started seeing the rhetoric, all these blacks talking about half breed. Oh, so you're letting me know I'm different. Okay, that's good. I'm going to work with that. And I'm going to
Mhm.
create my own half breed coalition. And then you guys can continue to cry. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's that's the whole thing. They want to just tell you how little you are like them, and how you get to go off. You're trying to fit in. You're trying to be white. You're trying to be this. It's like, no. Why would I want to try to be white? Like, being a white man right now would be like the worst thing to be. Everybody's allowed to hate you. I feel bad. I feel like the mulattoes are going to have to do a march to protect the white men soon. It's like they're just completely allowed. Everybody is allowed to hate you openly if you're a white man. So why would I want to be a white man? I don't want to be a white man. I don't want to be a black man. I'm happy being the mulatto man that I actually am.
Yeah, and what we need is we need to group up and connect with other people similar like us and develop that sense of community, develop
Well,
these spaces. That's the goal. Like you said, yeah, I'm not trying to be a quote white man or a black man
I don't
because
even know how that would be. It's to me, it's like, okay, this is kind of a sensitive topic, so I'm gonna, and I know this is going on YouTube, so I'm gonna try and use my wording
we're live.
carefully.
Yeah, we're live right
Yeah.
now.
So when it comes to the whole TQ plus situation, how do you know what that you're in the wrong body and that you should be in a different body? Because you've never been either. Like if you've never been a woman, how can you know that's what you feel like? If you've never been a man, how do you know what that's going to feel, that's what you really feel like? So I don't know how to be a white person. I don't know how to be a black person. I've never been one of these. And anything I'd be doing would be role playing or cosplay, because I can't possibly understand either race because it's not me. Like, I've spit in situations like when I'm in the islands, um, with my family and whatnot. I'm just known as my father's son. I'm not that people don't like if I get mentioned my race at all, they call me yellow, they call me red, but that's it. It's not a derogatory. It's not a hatred. It's not a jealousy. It's not an anger. It's just what it is. There's no people aren't ashamed of who they are, and that's where I think a lot of this comes from. There's a personal insecurity for the black population in the states. I can't see it any other way. I know it's
Yeah,
not popular to say, but I honestly can't. The way they're trying to claim every this, that, and the other. Little
yeah.
Mermaid. Okay, yeah, it's fine to race swap on a character that has no
Fictional.
cultural heritage,
Yeah.
but that's a Danish story. That is like an old Danish story for hundreds of years that they're changing.
Redhead. Yeah.
And redheads are being erased everywhere, and it's
Yeah.
always the redheads that get attacked. It's like that's. But if you ever notice, the white woman never gets replaced.
They
Not
can't
not
replace her. They can't replace her. They tried it in the 90s with Cinderella. They made a version with a black Cinderella with like Brandy.
Brandy. Yeah, that was all right. It was,
It was all right. I like Brandy, but they couldn't like
but it was. But the thing
swap.
is, they just did it. They didn't make a lot of with Brandy. I remember that because I'm a little older than you, so I
Yeah,
remember when that came out.
yeah, I
But they
remember
didn't. There wasn't publicity about it.
that. Right,
As
right,
did
right.
anything to do with race. It was just Brandy's playing it. It's like when they had The Wiz. Have you ever seen The Wiz?
I've heard of it, but I haven't watched it. No. Yeah.
It's basically it's the black version of The Wizard of Oz.
Right. Right. Right.
But again, nobody cared. It was because there wasn't any. It was just released. If you want to see it, go see it. No publicity, no nothing. With The Little Mermaid, there's so many things wrong with the remake. Like, it's not a love story anymore. It's just really not.
I haven't even seen it. I don't know.
Well, the whole thing is, in the original story, she was falling in love with Prince Eric. In the
Right. I remember the animation, right? Yeah.
Yeah, in the new story, she doesn't even remember that she needs to kiss him in 3 days. She needs to kiss him, and yet the song about kiss the girl now says get her consent and then kiss her. It's like, what? She needs the kiss from him, not the other way around. And he wasn't even allowed to kill Ursula. They changed it to she drove the boat into Ursula. And it wasn't that she wanted to be human to be with Eric. She just wanted to be human because she just wanted to be human.
Was that in the movie you're talking about, the new one released?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen it, but yeah, it's some crazy liberal twist. Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't about making The Little Mermaid. I could watch now the original cartoon because it was just a fun little love story. Like it's something you could watch on a date with your partner and just enjoy it for what it is.
With the
movies,
crab with the Jamaican accent, the crab.
Yeah,
right?
Sebastian.
Yeah, Sebastian. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, and that didn't make much sense at the same time that he had a Jamaican accent because again, it was supposed to be in Denmark, but who cared? Because nobody made a big deal about it. There wasn't any. Hey, look at us! No ESG scores were being worked about. No DEI. It was just ESG is the I forget what it stands for. But
social rating scores. Is that what you're saying?
DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Oh my god! Yeah.
Yeah, that's they literally. Well, the one at Disney just got fired. The head DEI person.
And Warner Brothers and Netflix, and they're all black women. Yeah, since the Supreme Court ruling, they canned them. At least 4 of them. Yeah, Disney, Netflix, Warner Brothers. There's another giant media corporation. They're kicking out these diversity inclusion people
because they're losing money.
Yeah.
It's not because the whole thing is they're not trying to make good movies. They're trying to make social messages.
Yeah.
The new. Well, going into the new Indiana Jones, that's a little outside of the race issue, but it was just.
I wanted to mention The Flash because I saw The Flash. I really liked the movie. It's got a lot of hate because of Ezra Miller. A lot of people like him. Obviously, there's controversy around him, but within this, I like the movie. I thought it was pretty good. I like Michael Keaton. I'm a Batman fan, but people were saying Ezra Miller was the message in the movie because he identifies himself with pronouns they and them.
Yeah.
So they're saying he is because they always got to throw in that message in all these damn movies, Star Wars and Marvel and all this stuff. There's some type of message, subliminal message, but
I give them credit though. They didn't Mary Sue Supergirl.
Oh,
which has been a problem with a lot of even like females in Hollywood are starting to complain about it. I don't know if you've seen Emily Blunt and what's the girl from Wednesday?
I'm not familiar with is that the Jenna or Jenna Ortega? Yeah.
Yeah, Jenna Ortega, but Emily Blunt, she's the one who Quiet Place.
I'm not familiar with her. Yeah, sorry.
Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise. But you know the Quiet Place movie?
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm not familiar with it.
Oh, wow. Well, she's a pretty big star. And she's
she American or what?
She's British, but she's been acting in the States for years.
Emily Blunt. Okay.
Yeah. And she made a complaint that she's like sick of these characters that just say strong woman. And it's like, what's a strong woman? It's like a strong woman. Is she as strong as a man now? Or is she strong because of her character? Or it's like all these unnecessary nouns, and it's just why. Like, it's one of my favorite movies of all time, Alien. The whole Alien franchise. Some of them were better, obviously, but the whole Alien franchise that had a strong woman or a female lead. Nobody cared because it was just a good character.
Even Resident Evil with Mila Jovovich. When that movie came out, I loved her character. Nobody cared.
Nobody was saying, "Oh, we don't like what." No, and then with The Little Mermaid, they said, "Well, it's flopping because of racism." But then you had Into the Spider-Verse come out, which happily a biracial character, but And the biracial character playing a biracial character, or like the character is actually like he's Puerto Rican and black. I appreciate that. But again, it's the number one movie of the year, I think. And it's like, well, there you go. It's not racism.
Yeah.
But then you had growing up, what did we have? We had Sarah Connor, Terminator. No, everyone was like, damn. When Terminator 2 came out and she was like flexing all her muscles and shooting guns, people were like, great job. Like, wow, Linda Hamilton looks crazy.
And
We
you
had
remember,
Xena, like we
yeah,
had Sonya.
I
So
remember,
many.
yeah, I remember Xena when the Warrior Princess came out. That was a big one. And then also when Tomb Raider, the movie came out with
Yeah,
Angelina.
Lara Croft. Well, that was Angelina Jolie, though. No one's going to complain about that.
That's what I'm saying. Like it was,
Like the movie plot wasn't as strong as the other ones, but
it was
Angelina Jolie is Angelina Jolie.
Precisely, yeah. So everyone liked it, right? But the thing,
Yeah,
the big one I remember, like I already mentioned, was Mila Jovovich in Resident Evil. Like mostly men supported that movie. They supported that video game franchise, Resident Evil. Those men were playing that game. They liked the movie. That's why the franchise has been pretty successful with all their.
but the difference is women did too. See, one of the things that these people in Hollywood are forgetting: women like to see men as well. Like women like to see even when you Thor: Love and Thunder. Did you see that one?
No, I'm not a Thor fan. Sorry.
Okay. In that movie, he gets his clothes thrown off, and Chris Hemsworth is Deez. Like he's Diesel. Like he's buff as hell. And the women are sitting there in the movie, like the two characters are sitting there eating popcorn, like, oh, look at this, let's enjoy this. And of course, that's fine. Like men aren't going to complain, oh, we're being sexualized and whatever, because that's fine. Women enjoy seeing that. But if they'd done that to Natalie Portman instead, as the female Thor, there would have been protests, complaints, freaking out for the exact same thing. So is it really equality that we're looking for, or is it special treatment?
It's supremacy. It seems like, I mean, it's a little touchy. Yeah, but I see that they kind of want to create this inequality, this imbalance, because they're looking at it like, well, all these years men have been on top, so now we got to put men beneath us so we can make things equal. I just don't see it happening.
It won't happen. It'll never happen. It's not realistic, because like there was I think like 10 years ago, if I'm remembering this right, I might have to look it up to confirm. There was some kind of national protest, a day without women, where
Wow.
women just stayed home. And the world went on. Like, I'm not trying to disparage women, but it didn't break society. It inconvenienced a lot of things, but it didn't stop society. If you had a day without men, if men just stayed home one day, you might say, okay, women can walk the streets easier. Yep, that's true. But what happens to all the sewers, the power plants, all the different things that are like 90 to 95% male-dominated industries?
Oh yeah.
I don't see women fighting to be roofers in equality. I don't see women saying, "Oh, we want to be on oil rigs. We want to be roughnecks."
Diggers. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, there's not. No one's claiming equality about that. And then it's like when you'll hear that, oh, men make 20 cents on the dollar more than a woman, but it's not based on the same jobs.
Yeah, that's their main argument they always push. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
If
the whole
if you
20
had
cents. Yeah.
if you had teachers, a male teacher and a female teacher, where the male teacher was making more, that's a problem. If they've both been the same amount of time, they've both been the same teachers for 10 years, whatever not, that would be a problem. But that's not the case. It's just that trades work is a high-paying job.
Yeah, we have to also look is that there's certain professions and jobs that fit certain people's, biological makeup and also their personality and just their skill set, their abilities. Now, the thing is, look at OnlyFans, and as far as like sex work, because there's a lot of mulatto women that participate in sex work and OnlyFans, selling content, etc. Obviously, they can capitalize off their aesthetic, right? They're very appealing.
Yes.
But like they have an advantage over your average guy, right? Women in general, they can sell feet pictures and make a bunch of money online.
Men are degenerates. We're degenerate human beings. Let's just be real.
But I'm saying, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, like, yeah, you'll never see guys well, I saw what happened once, but in general, you won't see guys protesting that they can't get a job at Hooters,
Yeah.
or we can't, like, it's like, oh, we want proper equality in porn. No, you can have a man and a woman who have worked the same amount of. They can work every movie together for 100 movies.
The
That
women
woman's
get
getting
paid
paid
more.
more,
Yeah, the women get paid more.
and
Yeah.
that's fine. That that's just not.
Men
What happens in
accept
the
it. I
orange is
don't
it's
see
never
men
going to be equal.
men accept it. I don't see any man complaining in the adult work that their co-partner, the women, are getting paid more. Guys accept it. They know that's the market. The
It's
men,
just the logic.
yeah,
Like, unless women want to start like saying we want porn more and we want all these guys. If women wanted it, there'd be more men in porn. Like, when it comes to the sexual market, women control it. Men control marriage. Women control sex.
yeah. I often hear the term, which I agree with, my body, my choice. But always the reply is, my wallet, my choice. So the market usually dictates and decides the terms. I do want to move on
Mm-hmm.
to kind of keep it more mulatto
Yeah,
based.
let's keep going.
Yeah, for sure. So I think we kind of tipped off. We started with the whole TikTok discussion, but we kind of ventured off somewhere else. But yeah, man, the whole TikTok thing, like I'm having some technical issues to pull up my account, which I apologize to the audience. But the gentleman, my guest here, has been having some interesting back and forth with a lot of people. A lot of them are mixed, sadly. A lot of mixed and mulatto people who are, kind of in their culture to be black, identify as black, and they're going to be social justice warriors on behalf of the communita, is what I call it here, where they are going to fight their battles. So if they see a mixed race person, a mulatto person who's not black identified, they think it upon themselves. They take it upon themselves to attack that person and try to set them straight. Be like, you got to be black and identify as black. Society is going to see you as black. I think we kind of left off there because blacks don't, like I said, they're calling us half breeds and all this stuff. So they're not even seeing us as black. And even whites don't even see us fully as black like that. There might be some instances, like there's some black people who will just claim us and see us as black, but it's not always the case. And they're leaving that part out. It's not
Well,
all society. Go ahead. Yep.
I was going to say, with white people, what I've found is that they'll call us black because they think they're supposed to a lot of times, because the whole 1% thing, one drop rule. But I also find if you correct them, they don't argue. They're like, okay, yeah, well,
No
that's what.
pushback. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like cool. It's almost like it makes it easier for them, and sometimes because they realize, okay, you're not so sensitive. It's not everything's going to be a race claim. Um, it's just I don't. Oh, I do understand, but I hate saying it. Why I think this is, but it's just it doesn't make sense. There's no reason why we need to be hated on. There's no reason why we have to be claimed, and there's no reason why we have to justify our existence. We are who we are. That's not going to change. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's always like, well, you're ashamed of being black. You're this, that, the other. And it's like, no, I'm just not. I'm just not. Like
Yeah.
it's
I don't have that experience like that they talk about being a victim under white supremacy. The system of white supremacy sees you as black. Like I have a white mom and I've always had white friends. I grew up with a lot of them. I just don't have that victim mentality where there's this boogeyman oppressor holding me down. And I just don't live my life like that as a free American. And so there's a lot of people who want to convince me that that's my reality of just being this helpless victim and you have to identify as black. I'm like, well, I'm not black like you. I've been to an all black nation in Africa and Ghana, and the people will tell you right away that you're not black. Like they're black, they're real black. And a lot of Americans, black Americans, like we've said, we've demonstrated, they will be the first ones to say you're a half breed. You're not black like me. You're not from the hood. And I've accepted that. And now I'm building something with that. And one of the points I wanted to talk about with this discussion is how we have black people, monoracial black people, who attempt to control our speech, censor our speech, and infiltrate our spaces, which is very prominent to where even a lot of these mixed race spaces, so called mixed race spaces, they're not even mixed race spaces. They're literally just black spaces masquerading and pretending to be mixed because they have a few mixed people who might be the kind of moderators per se, but they're always placating and adhering to monoracial black sensibilities. I've discovered that not only on YouTube, but in Facebook and obviously TikTok. There's a lady, a content creator, who's doing a lot of TikTok streams. She made a video recently where she was basically saying she got kicked out of a damn biracial space, even though she's biracial. And I heard some of the stream that she uploaded, and you have black people all in there trying to guilt biracials and shit. I'm like, why do you guys let these people in to try to dictate the terms and to censor you from your own damn space? If you're creating a space for mulattoes like I have all over social media, or you're creating a space for biracial, mixed race people specifically, you guys got to gatekeep, and you're going to hurt some feelings, but you guys got to be stern and firm in saying this is our space. There's not going to be any one drop rule bullshit, or that we're everybody's black, or that we're all mixed. You got to draw the lines of distinction. Like, and I'm one of the bad guys out here on social media, and I accept that reality. I'm one of the bad guys. I'm the mean guy. That's fine, but my space is has maintains its integrity. People listen to me. They know what they're getting. This is it. But go ahead.
I've had that experience. There was a group, I wish I remembered the name of it, on Facebook. There's multiracial, biracial, mixed race, something or other. And there was a post, and it said, I'm going to university, or my son's going to university, and or no, my brother's going to university, and he's wondering if he should try and pledge at a black fraternity or not, or if he's going to get a lot of hassle because of it. Now, that question alone shows the problem. The fact that they didn't feel comfortable to go there means they've experienced something that tells them they're not going to be fully accepted. I made a comment that said, why don't you try to get together with other biracials and create a mulatto group or a biracial group, something of the nature. And then a black person in the group was like, nah, he should be with us. Like, it won't be too bad. Yeah, there's going to be some that are going to give you a hard time, but just stick with us. And I was like, why are you here? Why are you even participating in this conversation? This is not a mixed race group. And the moderator was like, we don't use the word mulatto here. And I was like, yeah, that's nice. I'm mulatto, though. So you can't really tell me that I can't describe myself this way. Especially when there have been a whole bunch of black people using the N-word in that group. And it's like, are you going to say anything to them? No. So hush. Ultimately, back and forth a couple times. And I got booted from the group because I was arguing with a black person in a mixed race group.
So-called mixed race group. Yeah. And
yeah.
a lot of it, they're pro-black groups and they're pro-LGBT, pretending to be pro-mulatto, pro-mixed race. See, the first red flag is when you have these mulatto people who don't like the word mulatto. That's the first red flag. I'm like, okay, where are we going here? If you don't want to claim, your true identity, your true label, you already have a name for yourself, but you don't want to claim it because of some historical stigma. That's the first red flag. They're all inclusive, pro-black, pro-LGBT, but like you said, they'll openly let monoracial black people who really shouldn't even be in the group, it's not for them, they'll let them use the N-word. Nobody pushes back about the N-word. But when it comes to you saying mulatto or mulatta, they feel a certain way about that. That is the first indicator. Yeah, I had to create my own shit, man. Had to create my own Facebook group, create my own social media, because I didn't like a lot of what I seeing out here. Go ahead, sorry.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I'm very open about it, and I won't back down. Like, as I said, I'm a little older, so I worry about the youth a bit more. So I try to be patient, and I'll try to talk to them about it and explain to them the history, not to monoracials, but to other mulattoes, or just basically to mulattoes. I'll explain to them the history of the word, and that the whole propaganda of it being mule and all this stuff didn't happen until Jim Crow. That's exactly when all this stuff came about. It was to push mulattoes into the black community with the whole, if you have one drop of black in you, you're black. Because the problem was, at the time, mulattoes were very large landowners in the States. they were a prominent community in the States and Canada. Like they had created their own communities and didn't like it. It was like another race to worry about. So they got rid of it, joined it all together.
that's that's where we find or see ourselves today. When I see the opposition and the kind of animosity towards us, as they look at us now, they see us developing, emerging as a growth trajectory. Our numbers are rising. They look at us as another competitive group they have to deal with, and they want to destabilize us and make sure that we don't, pull our resources together and build a network, because they really want to destabilize us. That's what I'm seeing with the effort that's going on with a lot of these people. Because I'm like, why the hell are they, infringing upon our spaces and how we identify with ourselves? Why don't they have all these other issues? They Because I don't see white people trying to infringe upon our spaces. Like these other groups, particularly the monoracial black group, they have all these other damn issues. They need to focus on that. Why are they
Oh my
coming around
goodness.
here trying to tell us that we gotta go back and serve them?
That's exactly why, though. If you
Yeah.
want my opinion, that's exactly why. It's because we have less issues. Because when you look at ads on TV, you look at models, you look at this and that, the other, you look at the Cosby Show, where two of the daughters on the Cosby Show were mulatto. Like, pretty obviously mulatto. You had Sandra and Denise, who were basically the same color as white people, but their features were the only thing that told you them they weren't fully white. And but they still put them on TV.
And Fresh Prince too. Remember that Fresh Prince?
Yeah, Hillary. Hillary
Yeah,
is a
mulatto.
100% mulatto.
Yeah,
And then there was a big issue when they had the new Aunt Viv, because she was light skinned all of a sudden, which kind of threw it for a loop as for like, where did Ashley and Carlton get so dark from
they
now?
were crying about people were crying about that.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you guys are taking over, you're replacing. No, we're just being
I
us, and you
know.
want us in your group, and that's what happens. If you claim us all the time, others are going to as well.
See, that right there is the whole predicament that a lot of us find. See, I've already took a step back. I'm not in the community. I don't care. Okay, I'm a mulatto. I'm not black, so they can either accept it or stay confused. The thing is interesting, is you said it right there. They want to claim you, all your wins, and oh, you part of the group, and all this. But then when we play a role that's supposed to go to a dark skinned person, they remind your ass that you're not like them. They're like, you're erasing us. This is mixed. There was a lady, she has a pretty popular, or I guess she has a lot of numbers on her YouTube channel here, dark skinned lady and LGBT, and she basically had a stream saying about Amber Rose, saying mixed race heritage is being used against, is being weaponized against black people. They're talking about black erasure, and I'm like, well, wait a second. There's a mulatto erasure. No one wants to talk about that. Like with Mulatto Mountain in North Carolina, they changed the name to honor Nina Simone, the singer who's from North Carolina. But we talked about this earlier in the stream when they made a movie about with Nina Simone. They portrayed Zoe Saldana. They had her, who's a mixed woman. They had her play the character. A lot of dark skinned black women were crying. I talked about that on this channel many times. That just that whole kind of debacle a lot of us see ourselves in, where this constant in grouping and out grouping, where they want to claim all your wins and say, oh, you black just like us, you black just like us, we're all the good. We're like, okay, cool, I'm black like you, so I'm gonna play a black character. You play a black character, they start whining and crying, you're not dark enough, we need a real black. Like they tried to pull that with Dwayne Johnson, The Rock.
Mm-hmm.
They were gonna cast him to play, I guess his name is Mark Henry. He helped build the railroads. He's a historical kind of American. I don't know if it's a myth. It's a historical figure. I think his actual real character, Mark Henry. Anyways, they were going to cast a Rock because of his kind of stature. He's a big kind of burly guy, right? But there were a lot of black men, dark skins, crying and complaining, saying they got to get a guy like Terry Crews, a real dark skinned black man, to play the character. You see how that works?
Of
the
course.
game the game they play with us, and I'm using my media platform and social media to try to kind of like signal to other mulattoes, like, why don't you guys just wake up and start developing your own shit instead of playing games with these people all day long? Assert yourself as being an independent group, connect with others who are like-minded like you, and this is only going to grow. Our numbers are growing, we're not going anywhere. So those of us who are older, we have to set something up and prepare for the younger generation. But go ahead.
Well, you ask why I have the how I have the patience to deal with these people. That's why. Because I've seen it where on like certain certain posts that I've commented on where I've just gotten into a full argument about it, where you'll see people who were kind of just like making kind of just like casual comments jump up and be like, yeah, you're right. And there are other mulatto people who didn't feel like they could speak up because they felt like they'd be alone in their speaking up. So I speak up to let them know that I got your back. If anyone, like, you're in some of the groups that I'm in, and if anyone posts something and says, this is going on right now, I jump on. And I feel like that's my responsibility based on being older and not being brainwashed. I've never been black. I've never been white. I've always been mulatto. And I have that benefit for my whole life, is that I have the confidence to argue it. And I've looked at the history. I know where the word comes from. And it does not come from mule or mula, as would be the word in Portuguese or Spanish. That's M-U-L-A. No, that's not where mulatto comes from, or mulatta. It's just not. That was propaganda in the 1915, I believe it was, when it first got said. If you look at, there was a great book that really kind of gave an idea of what a mulatto or quadroon community would be like in the Feast of All Saints. It was an Anne Rice book, and it's been made into a movie. I read the book. I've never seen the movie, but it was really talking. It was just nice to feel what it was like to be part, like to see that we had that community where it was different. We were like, when I think of mulattoes, if we ever became a race again, I don't think we could gatekeep it to be, you have to be 50-50 or 45-55, that close. I would say we include the Griffs and the Quadroons as well, in terms of our race, because not black and white is mulatto. It doesn't say 50% black and 50% white. It just says black and white. So if you got those two races as your two races, to a point where it's not like 10% or 20%, but if it's at least a quarter and 75 or something like that, I think that we should just claim them all.
I think we disagree on that. I think there was a post in one of our Facebook groups where we kind of, I mentioned something. I think my mark was like 30, 70, somewhere around there. But then you kind of pushed back a little bit. But I think respectfully, I think we'll definitely disagree.
Well, the reason I say so, yeah. I'll tell you why. I have three kids. Now, my oldest one, he's very white presenting. So I wouldn't necessarily push that on him. But my other two look just like me. They're the exact same coloring as everything as me. And yeah, they're 25%, 75%, whatever way you want to look at it. But they're fully mulatto presenting. So it's like, there was one of the conversations of that group is like, well, a black woman was in that discussion as well. And she was saying, well, if you're less than 40 or 60, then you're just whatever that, if they're less than 40% black, they're white. And it's like, how? Like, white people aren't going to accept them as white. So it's just personally, I take it as a responsibility to a little bit of inclusion. Because they're not going to find a home anywhere else.
That's understandable.
So that's what I'm looking at. Like, I'm just trying to look at it and also just to keep our community. Otherwise, we're a one-shot done. Unless two mulattoes are having kids together, we're a one-shot and done.
Yeah,
we disappear after one generation.
And I definitely promote us having kids together. I'm going to actually drop a video on Wednesday about that. And obviously, there's a lady who started a YouTube channel specifically for that. She's married to a mulatto guy, so I always promote that. And to me, those are the people, who.
Easier said than done, though. Like, when I was growing, I didn't meet my first mulatto woman until I was 16. And that was my friend's girlfriend. And I didn't meet another until I was 24. So it's easier said than done to keep our race going like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're spread out and fragmented. No, for sure.
So that's why I give it 2 generations. That's all I'm saying. Give it 2 generations. Because as long as it's a presenting thing, like if you look white or you look black, like actually white or black, that's different. But if you look mixed, I don't know. I accept you as one of us, as long as it's the 2 race thing.
Yeah.
If it's 5 races or 4 races and it just happens you look like us, no, that's a little different.
And
but
I think Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off. Finish. Go ahead. Yep.
No, I was pretty much done.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I was just saying, I think one of the big major components here for me personally, obviously the genetics, I'm not a geneticist, so I don't go specific. I just, laid down the number 70/30 as I think, because we got to have a cutoff somewhere. That's the key. Another thing is that culturally and ideologically, where do you lie at, right? If there's a code, we establish a code in the community. And, this is something that we're in that process of, formation that we have to develop. And that's extremely important because, but obviously this is a complex discussion that,
It is,
you
and but
know,
the one thing I don't want us to become is colorist.
yeah. Well, I
Because
mean,
look at you and I. We don't look alike.
no, yeah, we don't look alike.
Like our skin tones kind of closer, but
The, pe- the,
our hairstyle, like our hair features, our physical features, my eye color, it's completely different.
you have green eyes, I think, right?
Yeah, I have green eyes.
Hey, does people say you look like any famous celebrity? Because
Oh my gosh.
people say I look like Derek Fisher. You know who Derek Fisher
Yeah,
is?
I've gotten Derek
Basketball player.
Fisher. I've gotten
Because we're both
what
bald.
was that guy who played for the Yankees? Derek Jeter.
Oh
I've
yeah,
got
that cat. Yeah, no
Steph
one's ever.
Curry. I got Steph Curry, and I was like, "What?" I've gotten who's that one?
Everyone
Tall
always says,
Blake Griffin.
well, he's like
Uh,
6'6" or some shit. Are you that tall or what?
no, it's not that. Just the face.
Everyone said for me, everyone says Derek Fisher. It's so crazy because I'm from LA area too. So it's like that's the number one celeb that people will be like, oh, even when I went up to Seattle, I traveled up there. Some guy even said that. So it's funny. I always get Derek Fisher or Houston Alexander. Have you seen what he looks like?
Well,
He's
I don't
a
know.
cage fighter. Yeah, but I mean,
The one I get the most,
no
and I
one's ever
don't
said.
even know his name. He was on Grey's Anatomy or something.
Oh, is that Jesse Williams? Is that what
Could
it is?
be. Let me Google that.
Yeah.
Could be because that he's like
No
mulatto
one,
with green eyes or something. So
no,
it's
no one's ever said I look like Derek Jeter, but I would take it as a compliment if they did. Plus the guy's got a lot of cash, but people usually always say for me, Derek Fisher, which is kind of cool too because he's pretty likable. He has a pretty big fan base. So yeah, man. Yeah, I think so. We went off on the whole monoracial infiltration. Now the thing is because it's biracial people. What it is, a lot of mulattoes because they've been constantly outgrouped, right?
mhm.
They don't want other people to feel that way. So there's a lot of us who are very inclusive to our own demise, right? We bring people in, we feel sorry. We don't want to exclude people because we know what it feels like to be outgrouped, right? And that's unfortunate that we don't have this kind of protection defense mechanism established to essentially protect the integrity of our group and our spaces. A lot of us were guilted into feeling sorry for ourselves and letting everybody in, hearing what everybody else has to say, when the whole point for me starting this channel was I want to hear what other mulattoes have to say. Let's tell our stories. I'm creating a platform for us, and believe me, I get a lot of pushback, but this is ours and no one's going to take it from us. This is ours. This is for us. And I'm very
For sure,
proud of that. Yeah.
for sure. And that's the thing. It's like the number one thing that I think led to a lot of the mulattoes going over to the black communities because that was the only home that was offered. There was nowhere else to go to feel like you had a community. So it's really important that you're like what you're doing is very important because it gives like it's giving other people someone that knows they have somewhere else to go, that there is another option. Like it's we're the third in terms of everything being black and white. No, we're that little bit of gray. Like you get black paint and you get white paint. You mix it together, you get gray. No matter how much black or white you add, it's never going to get back to pure white or black again. So it's like we are something else, and we deserve to be identified as something else. Like I'd be happy if races weren't even a thing anywhere, but they are.
They are. It's a reality. Yeah.
Yeah, it is the reality. So as long as it's the reality, we need to be able to have our own space, our own home, our own community.
Precisely. The thing is, what's unfortunate with a lot of us, like we've said, you've demonstrated or you've spoke, is that a lot of us, our parents didn't equip us with this information to make us realize the kind of racial reality of the world we live in, the society, right? because they both two monoracial groups come together. They told us race doesn't matter. It's about, who you are as a person. As we grow up and become more mature, we realize, oh shit, there's certain places that we kind of can't go. We have to kind of ask, or we have to kind of scope out the scene to see if we'd be welcomed in there. Like you talked about your friend who was looking to go to a fraternity, the fact that he had to ask, or I don't know if it was your friend, it was someone you talked about on social media, the fact that they had to ask if they'll be accepted into the black fraternity lets you know everything right away, right? And
Exactly.
yeah, so our parents, a lot of the times, they didn't equip us with the reality. Well, the issue is, let me finish by saying this, a lot of our parents lied to us and told us that we're just going to be seen as black, but then black people will let you know, a lot of them, that you're not like them. So it either way, a lot of times they're not raising us to be mulattoes, because only mulattoes can do that. That's why it's important for us to group with each other and create a lineage, or create a pass down our lineage, etc., and create history from that. Because as long as we're underneath monoracial groups, there's going to be this continued kind of confusion foisted upon us, to where race doesn't matter, or you're just going to be seen as black. No, that's not the case. We're a unique group. We've always been here. We've been in the Americas, north and south, for centuries.
Yeah.
Today, now 2023, we're asserting ourselves. But go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was just agreeing with you. Um, like, it's it's really a tough situation. I always want. I get angry with with biracial people. I'm a lot more patient about it, but with like I grew up in my black family. My mother's family was in England. My dad's family was here. And so I grew up with my black family. I grew up in a white neighborhood, but my black family was the family I grew up with. But there was never any confusion. Like my brothers, my dad had some like kids after my mother, and they're full black. They're the only family I've ever had that have called me black. My cousins, my uncles, my aunt, they never called me black. They always refer to me as their little mulatto nephew or their mulatto cousin or whatever not. And I appreciated that. And I think that gave me my sense of identity. And they didn't exclude me from anything because it was just family. It wasn't about race. And that's a benefit that I think I grew up with. That I wish race is such a big deal in the U.S. that I wish it wasn't. I wish there was less push on it, and it was about identity of yourself, identity of your culture, your family, not just your race. And it's just, I wish there was a solution. But the U.S. Instead of just being they call the U.S. the engine that moves the world's economy, it also affects a lot of the social issues around the world. I'm Canadian, and the most problems I've had were things that have been influenced by the U.S. that came here after. And so that's why I focus on the U.S. to try and get them sorted out. Because it's like if the U.S. ever put mulatto back on the census, England, Canada, Australia, Caribbean, it would all be there right away within a year or two after.
Interesting about that is, from what I'm seeing, the UK is a more progressive state, because they have on their census documentation, they have these options where if you're a mulatto, you can check dual heritage. That's the term.
Biracial, yeah. Biracial's on the Canadian, it's been
Mhm.
on the Canadian census for years. It's
Yeah,
just, it's not us. Biracial is black and Indian, Chinese and Spanish.
yeah, it's
It's
too
not,
ambiguous. Yeah, it's too
yeah,
ambiguous.
it's not anything specific.
There's a
Um,
historical implication with mulatto because of our position within that kind of racial dichotomy of black and white, kind of the slave and master. We're somewhere in the middle of that. Some people use the term as a buffer class. Well, that's typically black people use that term. That we're a group that's used against them. That's why there's such a major push with the black community and a lot of the pro-wax and the black supremacists, where they want to claim us to be black, to absorb us, for us to be subordinates, because they feel like, I don't know if you saw the social media experimentation I did, but a lot of them, these black supremacists, they feel like if we ever become our own group, that we will essentially be used against them. And so there's a lot of effort with
But
them.
it's
Go ahead.
silly. Used
Yeah,
against them how?
yeah,
This isn't like the 1700s or 1800s
yeah.
anymore.
We're our own group. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
but you can't go against any group anymore. It's just not allowed.
yeah, I don't see Asians against Hispanics or see they love that victim position. It's part of their identity is being a victim, and they want to force that upon a lot of us. A lot of the young mulatto liberal types, they fall for it, unfortunately, looking for acceptance, you know. But it's
I,
being a victim, you know, that's the thing. Yeah, go ahead.
one thing I've never heard in the islands, in any of the countries I've ever been in, like in St. Vincent, where my family's from, or Grenada, Barbados, Trinidad, and I have a lot of family there. I've never heard anyone bring up reparations. This has never happened, except when they're talking about why are Americans always asking for reparations. Like
Yeah,
it's
and the richest nation on earth with all these wealth earning potential, all this opportunity to make money, but yet you want freebies, you know.
it's you want money based on what your great great grandparents and before them did. And it's like you take California, where it hasn't been fully approved yet, but where the committee about reparations
Yeah,
wants to give like $2 million to every black person. California never had slavery,
I know. It's funny, huh?
so it's like how California never had slavery yet it's the first state that's going to try and pay it back.
I know.
Why? So then what do you think is going to happen after that?
It's political
When
theater. Yeah.
but what do you people aren't thinking about the long term implications of it? Like the affirmative action ruling that just happened is
Hmm.
probably the best thing to happen for race relations in the U.S. in a long time.
A lot of
It's also
people
showing a lot
disagree.
of.
A lot of
Pardon
people
me.
I said a lot of people disagree, especially those TikTokers. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm gonna I'm gonna just look it up right here. There was a statement made by a liberal activist about it, and it was absolutely insulting. If you're black, I'd be so insulted but this is what it looks like when you have affirmative action. It was I can't find it, but basically it was saying that if you make it merit based, black people are going to suffer.
Yeah, she doesn't have any belief in them. She feels like them as a group. It's like pity them. We got to give them some special set asides because they can't compete with everybody else. You
Like,
know,
how is that not the most insulting thing ever?
it's a liberal person, right? Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
and that's absolutely insulting.
yeah, yeah. I'm
I,
not
I
surprised though.
yeah, but it's like when Biden said, "Well, if you vote Republican, you ain't black," and it's like, what?
Oh yeah, that was funny. And the blacks still voted for him overwhelmingly. I'm not surprised. You know, like I said, I'm born and raised American, so I've seen it. I travel this whole nation. I've seen it, man. It's just, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? I mean, to me, I fight back. I ruffle a lot of feathers. A lot of people don't like me, which is fine.
I enjoy it.
But I'm one of the few ones out here I could proudly say that because a lot of people kowtow and they kind of cave in to monoracial black sensibilities. They don't want to ruffle feathers, and there's people been having these kind of discussions on YouTube and social media for years. Like, I pulled up a comment from Mulatto Diaries, which was 14 years ago. Like, I was not in the frame of mind that I'm in now. Like 14 years ago, I was trying to be more black identified, pro black, 14 years ago. But you had people, mulattoes, on YouTube who were asserting themselves. And I'm like, damn, why are we still kind of stuck in the same place as a kind of collective trying to form things together where a lot of us are figuring this shit out? It's staggering. We need people who are more serious about this and are going to protect the integrity of us having our spaces, because I feel like a lot of people, mulattoes, they cave in. They let in all these other interlopers and people who don't belong, and it's
Well,
sad, man. Yeah.
I noticed you spoke to Adele James.
Well, I didn't
Well,
speak
not
to her
directly, but you sent a
personally.
message through her.
Yeah, some comments. Yeah, yeah.
And it's see, I look at her and she'll identify herself as biracial all the time.
Yeah, she's
But then
pro
she'll
black.
also call herself black.
Yeah, she's pro black. Yeah, I noticed that about her.
Well,
A
we'll
lot
get
of
into the
British
Cleopatra thing, but
a lot of British biracials are kind of like that too. I
but,
found out, you know.
but not as many as you think, because I've lived in England and I met a decent amount of mulattoes over there, and the term over there that they generally use is half caste, which to me is like worse
It's
than
like a
half breed
slur.
if you think about it.
I was called that in Ghana. That's their version of because they learned the English, the British English in
Yeah,
Ghana. So
but
they
if you
I
think
heard that
about what
word.
it means,
Yeah,
so it's like half breed, half caste. What do these things mean?
like
They
you're
mean you're
lower.
half good and half the other.
Yeah, like you're lower status, lower tiered or something. Yeah.
Well, at least you got that half of breed or caste. it's, it's interesting,
Well,
but
I want to.
they didn't say it though. With while they were much more open about saying things like half caste in England, they didn't say it with hatred. It was just an accepted term.
Yeah, I've never accepted half breed. It's always
No,
used a negative connotation here, but pro blacks will say it. It's a slur for biracials, and that's why I'm like, look, they're outgrouping you. They're telling you you're not a black, and a lot of these biracials they like getting punked by blacks. It's like sadomasochism, so they accept it. Oh, they're gonna call me some names and joke about me, laugh at me, but at least I still got somewhere to go to. Yeah, being a punk and a subordinate, don't you want your own space where you're respected, you're seen as as a being, a whole, a one, right? But
do you ever watch the show Big Brother?
no, I haven't seen it. No, sorry.
So a few seasons ago, they had a group called the Cookout that got together. I don't know if you understand the base of the show. It's just basically 16 people go into a house and you try to outlast, outplay, and make decisions that let you, like they vote each other out every week and you try to do whatever. So there's a group called the Cookout, which was called the Black Group. But half the group were mixed people, two mulattoes and one black and Indian, whatever that's called, Blindian or whichever. Um,
Oh, I've heard of that before. Yeah, Blindian. Yeah,
yeah, and it was funny because what I expected to happen happened. They were a group. They all stayed together until they were the last ones left, and then they picked off the mixed people first. And I watched it happen, and I was like, "Yep, I knew that was going to happen." And it was just it's just a typical situation. We're one of you until it's time to shine, and then go on with yourself. It's so that's there's no benefit to kissing up to the black community because
yeah.
ultimately they won't stand for you.
Don't chew you up, spit you out. Yeah, I figured that out. A lot of us have to learn kind of the hard way, or we're just living life experience. I'm happy it happened to me earlier, where I learned. Um, but what really woke me up was when I was in San Diego. Went to school out there, finished up school out there, and lived out there. And I started seeing black people teaming up and working like with Mexicans. Like they would be cool Mexicans and they'd be insulting me, calling me a mutt. And then also blacks would be with doing that with whites. They would team up with whites and Mexicans against me. Then it helped wake me up to realize, oh, okay, I'm not a part of your group. So now I have to make the strategic steps to find other people similar like me and work, build, and network with them. The beautiful thing about it is we're all over the place to our in a ways it can be a disadvantage the fragmentation, but social media allows this communication network where we can connect with each other in such a way it's never been possible before. So I have people all around the planet now, and it's a beautiful thing. But like I said, when I was in San Diego, I started to realize that when I started to see black people who I thought I was kind of part of their group partially were working with whites and Mexicans against me, I was like, okay, you guys lost one, and I'll be one of the guys who inspires many others to break away and leave as well. So this is just the beginning, but yeah, go ahead.
The thing about it is, it's human nature, unfortunately, that when you're down, when you feel insecure, when you feel like everybody hates you, which unfortunately the black community does in a lot of ways, because racism has caused that.
Mm-hmm. Oh
But
yeah.
the side effect of that is a lot of them, not going to just say the whole community, but a lot of them
Right. Right.
definitely try to take that out on us,
Yeah.
where they can, yeah, we can look down on you,
Mm-hmm.
we can shit on you and mock you,
Because
and you just
everyone
have to
looks
sit
down
there
on
and
them.
take it.
Yeah, because everyone looks down on them, right? So they want to do unto us as everyone does to them, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, it's not even everyone. Like racism isn't what it was. This isn't the South in the '60s or the '50s where you're burning crosses on the street. This doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
The
It's
black
just
community is
microaggression.
extremely protected in the United States.
They're coddled to their own, uh, undoing.
Chicago's dying
They're
because of
coddled.
the
They're coddled.
coddling.
Yeah, because they can brag about being criminals and thugs and running on the street, harming their own people. I might add, they're harming their own people with all the thuggery and the glamorized gang banging with the music, the hip hop. So they're coddled. Hey, you're from the hood. You're a G. You got style and swag, and they market it and sell it and make money off it. So, but they want to be proud victims at the same time. But then
Oh
they
my,
want to be
yes.
aggressors as
Well,
well. They're coddled. Yeah. Go ahead.
have you ever looked at the stats on black on white crime and black on black crime and white on black crime?
I haven't looked at any direct numbers recently, but fill me
Well,
in.
let me tell you this. It's about 10 times more likely that it's going to be black on white crime as white on black.
I mean, you can see all the videos all over the damn place, even in Europe. I mean, there's video evidence of black people attacking whites. I mean, they had a knockout game that was popular in New York, where it was a black people in hoods or whatever. They just go up and punch a random white person. Like, if the videos like that were reversed, you know how much crying and whining we'd hear, right?
If the basic comments that were made every day were like, I've watched videos where it's like people go up to black people and interviewing them, and they're like, "Do you hate white people?" And they're like, "Yeah." Is it okay to be rude and racist to white people? I can't be racist. I can say what I want. They deserve it.
See
And
that? See that?
it's like
They want
really,
to, yeah, they want to be the aggressors, but they want to be victims. And then they wonder why a lot of people don't want to be around them or they don't want them in their space. Like, this is a public platform. I'm speaking to everyone around the world, anyone who can tune in, join in, whatever. I'm just speaking my truths, guys. And we see this out here. Why you have gated communities, why you have people who isolate themselves away from certain demographics, certain populations, because we see this cultural, this behavior, and a lot of us, we don't want to be a part of it. But go ahead.
yeah. And it's, as much as it frustrates me and it gets me angry with the black community a lot of times, it's still half of me. And even though I'm not American, I have a lot of family in the States that is full black, and they're Caribbean background, just like
Mhm.
me. But I know what they're going through, but I know at the same time they're not going through a lot of the things because they had different upbringing. They have a culture with the culture of the Caribbean culture. So, like, most of my family, not all, but most of my family in the States have done pretty well for themselves. Like, they're not getting arrested. I think I only have one family member out of like 45 or 50 relatives I have in the States that's ever been arrested. Like, I've gone to the States. I didn't have issues. Like, my biggest issue was around September 11th. I stopped going to the States because I can pass for too many things.
Oh, damn, really?
Yeah, because, like, whether I looked like I was South American or whether I looked like I was Middle Eastern, neither one was going to be like a big preference
That's
in the
crazy.
States.
It's crazy because you don't look Middle Eastern at all. You
Depends on
look,
which Middle Eastern country. If you go to Jordan or Iran, I generally kind of do.
you
Not
could
Harry
pass
enough,
for some
but
of them. Yeah. Well, people, like I said, for as far as celebrities, people say for me, Derek Fisher. But then if they're generally speaking, people say, are you? What are you? See, that's how you know you're not
oh
black.
yeah,
You'll know
that's
you're
that.
not you're black because they'll tell you, what are you? People will say, oh, are you Puerto Rican or Brazilian? What are you? I'm not
You know,
black, though, that's for sure.
Kay and Peele.
Yeah, yeah. They're funny. Yeah.
Yeah, they're both mixed,
Yeah, yeah, for
and
sure.
they did a show here in Canada at the Just for Laughs festival. I think it was in Montreal or Toronto. I'm not sure which one it was. I watched it on TV, but they had a song that was called "What the Fuck Are You?" And it's like everyone walking up to them, they're like, "Are you?" They stare and then they talk and then they're like, "What the fuck are you?"
What
And
are you?
it's just funny because that's my life. That's my life more than anything else. Where people are like, "What is your background?" Like, and sometimes when I'm like, "Oh, I'm half black, half white," they're like, "Really?" And I have to pull down my chest hair to show it.
Well, you have
It's like,
curly hair,
oh
curly
yeah,
hair
my
on.
chest hair is all black hair.
Yeah.
My
I
hair
don't
is
have.
mulatto. Go ahead.
Oh no, no, no. Go ahead.
I was gonna say the hair on my head looks very mixed. Depend on if I have no product in it and it's just whatever, you can see I'm mixed. But my chest hair, yeah, that's all black. My facial hair, mostly white. But my
I
chest hair,
don't.
yeah, that's my black side right there.
I don't have that Negroid gene for the hair. My sister has quintessential mulatta hair. My brother hair curls a little bit, but I have the stringy, straight hair. But
My older brother, I don't know what he looks. He's darker than me, and he's got brown eyes,
mhm.
but he doesn't look black either. I don't know. I've posted pictures before. You might have seen. He doesn't look. He looks like probably Middle Eastern.
Yeah, I found an image. My mom sent me an image of myself. I was in my karate, my what they call my karate gi when I was a kid. I think I was like around 9 or 10, probably like 9 or 8 years old. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, damn, I don't know. What do I look like? I mean, I had hair back then, but like I said, it's straight hair. I don't know, man. I think I kind of look like a East Indian dude. I don't know, man. Back in it's funny. I'll probably share the pictures with you, just personal, personally. I don't want to publish it for the whole damn public, but I'll share it with you after the stream. But pretty interesting, yeah.
The one thing I want to stress to like other mulattoes is embrace both sides of who you are.
Right,
Like,
right.
like don't be feeling like you can only embrace your black side. This goes to anyone who's mixed. Embrace both sides of who you are because that's who you are. Like if you grew up with only one parent and their family, that's a little different. You're not going to understand the other side so much. But at the same time, black and white culture is everywhere. Like the black and white people are everywhere. Here in Canada, we don't use race so much when we do the census. It's European, African, Asian, or South American. That's how our census works. They don't actually break it down by color.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I think we have to embrace both sides. What I often find with mulattoes is that they get pressured, and if they know if they want black acceptance, they have to downplay their white side. That's kind of the unwritten rule, unspoken rule for black acceptance is they can't really be proud of their white side if they're mulatto. And unfortunately, as you can see on TikTok, we see a lot of that with a lot of younger mulattoes who feel like they can only be black, like and they can't be the third category, the mulatto, right? And it's
And
unfortunate.
why is that? Like when you see some of the comments that get made, like I was called a raccoon, coon. I thought that was
You don't
the
even
term
look
for black.
black though. Yeah, you don't look.
I thought that was a term for black people, but
I
they're only
know.
black people calling me this.
Yeah,
And it's like, what? It's like, what do you say? I got called. I don't want to
you're
actually
black.
say.
You're black, white boy. Like
No, I get called the.
that's funny.
Well,
That's
you, the Uncle Tom, or you're
Sam.
like a house N word, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, is that like an insult? So you're trying to say that someone like me would be in the house instead of the fields? That's not the flex you think it is.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't get called that much from people. They don't say I mean maybe a couple times I've been called, a raccoon. Not that much. A lot of people will say, "Oh, you're white supremacist or you're anti-black, you're racist." I'm like, "Okay, thank you. You're letting me know I'm not like you. I'm not one of you." And that's
that's the
I
thing.
need
It's like none of the insults are generally that actually offensive if you think about it. Like most of the insults, it's like, oh, you're not one. It's like, okay, I'm not one of you. Yeah, I wasn't trying to be.
yeah,
What's your point?
it's been known too with me because I had people like I had a monoracial infiltrator come over here and and I had to kick him out. I'm like, I don't think this is the right channel for you. There's other channels that will probably
Do me
like.
a favor. Hold that thought. I have to run for 2 minutes. A
Yeah,
little
sure.
bathroom break.
Yeah, yeah,
I'll be
sure.
right back.
Yeah, you're good. Go ahead. Cool. I'm gonna jump into this comment here from M Batista. Shout out to you. Respect to the chat. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Respect to you guys listening. It says, why should any mixed person care about what black people's issues are? Very good point. A lot of us, because we're partially black, depending on if we grew up around them, we're very sympathetic towards the black plight. I know I was for a certain period of time, but black people helped me realize that their battle is not my battle, that we're just two different people. And black people helped me realize with the outgrouping. And I thank them for that. It's part of the learning process, part of my, grow, be maturity, etc. But a lot of mixed people, mulattoes specifically, if they're enculturated in that environment, in the black environment, they take on those issues, that identity, etc. Right? So that's why they kind of take on that their issues. And he said that's none of mixed people's business. People that like are people like that are black identified. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like we said, that's all they've ever known, right? If you can even hear some of these mulattoes, they jump on some of these streams, you listen to how they talk, it's like, yeah, that's all they know is what the communita, tells them. And it says right here, the black race is a, well, you use an extreme language, says even they know that. Yeah, I mean, one of the things is they know instinctively. That's why they're trying to mix in with everyone. Not all of them. And the ones who want to protect their integrity, I respect them way more. I rather do business with them and network with them, the self-respecting black people who like being black, their integrity, because I rather deal with that person. They're more trustworthy than some sneaky, slimy kind of infiltrator who wants to come in here and say, we're all mixed, you just like me. No, no, no.
I agree.
Says that's why they're trying to claim they're mixed. Yeah, exactly. But I wouldn't say that's not all of them.
No, I
But
wouldn't say the black race is a lost cause.
I
I saw
wouldn't.
that comment.
Yeah, I think
I'd
that's
say
too. That's too
the
extreme.
American black race is.
Well, they're not
I
winning.
disagree that too, though,
They're not
because
winning. They're not winning at all.
they're not winning. But at the same time, one thing that I'm very happy to see, I've seen a lot of black content creators, fighting back and saying and calling them like out the community, and saying no, we got to be better. We can't just stop. We got to stop complaining. We got to be better. I'm seeing a lot of that lately, and
They're
I'm
not the
happy to see
most.
that.
They're not the most popular platforms, though, right?
No, of course. Well, they have a lot of followers, but they take a lot of hate.
Yeah,
But more and more are coming out.
but the ones who distinguish themselves differently, like a Candace Owens, notice they marry into the white group. They're thus by creating more mulattoes. Like a Candace Owens, also you have like I think the Hodge twins. I'm not sure their partner, but they're mixed themselves, anyways. But yeah, I see that with some of the more. Have you heard of Coach Greg Adams? He's a Manosphere guy. He's
Probably the name sounds familiar. I couldn't place it, but I don't haven't heard him before.
well, he's a black man, and he's more right leaning, conservative, Republican leaning. But of course, he has mulatto kids, so I do see that because he criticizes a lot of things with the black community as well. Um, and so that's the thing when I see those type of guys or gals, like I said, Candace Owens, when they kind of criticize the black community, typically a lot of times they're married and they're married into the white group, creating mulattoes.
And
Yeah.
I think honestly, it's hard to say this. I think the number one problem in the black community is the outlook of too many black women. Where I've seen some of them talking like, I don't want a boring 9 to 5. I want my Pookie. I want my Ray Ray.
Yeah, they want a
Like,
scammer. I want a scammer.
yeah, I've literally like I watched a video where they interviewed like 20 black women.
I want that thug love. Yeah.
Yeah, and all of them wanted the thug love. I don't want a boring guy who's working 9 to 5. I don't even care about the money as much. I want somebody who's just fun and interesting and this and that. And it's like, what?
Hey, that's where that 75% illegitimacy rate comes from. I mean, it's not an accident, And what they're going to say is, well, the deadbeat guy left, but you spread your legs for a deadbeat guy. You got to take responsibility.
Well, that's
And
the thing. There's got to be a personal responsibility about who you have children with, who you spend your time with.
yeah, for
And
sure.
there's a hardness, not all, again, I'm generalizing, but it's never all. But there's like a hardness to the black woman where it's like they're trying to be men too much.
Oh, yeah, strong and independent. Yeah, they have this movie. They call it the Woman King. You seen that shit?
Oh, it was
That
a Woman
makes-
King, the movie that was about the Druidi tribe that was actually the slavers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Well, yeah, there's
but
a
then you
gentleman-
have Viola Davis saying, if you don't go to see this movie, you're showing that the black woman can't lead the box office. No, if you're going to see this movie, you're not going to see the movie that's glorifying slavers
Slavery.
and calling them the heroes.
Yeah, there's a gentleman here, Angst Vision, on the channel. who kind of filled me in on that. I didn't even know the history of that tribe and all that. I didn't see the movie. I just thought the irony was just it's so bizarre. This need, this penis envy, this need for a woman, okay, who has a vagina, who wants to be the man. It's like this hyena complex. I'm like, why don't you just be a woman? Like, there's already enough dudes out here competing in society, bumping heads, what's wrong with being a woman? Like, why do you want to be the man? It's not easy, but go ahead.
But and it's a lie, because 500 of those female soldiers were taken out by 6 French male soldiers.
That superior technology, is that what it was?
Well, no, it's not just superior technology, because you put 500 men with spears charging 6 men with guns, the 500 men with spears are going to win.
That's what the Zulus, yeah, the Zulus, Shaka Zulu, that was his kind of strategic tactic with the Boers, right? One of their first campaigns was basically they outspeared them. They had more numbers and they just ambushed them. But
yeah. It happened the opposite way though too. With a British, I forget the name of it. There was a movie made about it with Michael Caine, where there was a British infantry group. I'm not sure how many. I think it was about 30 or 40, but they had lots of ammo, and they were charged by a couple thousand Zulu warriors, and they won because that was superior technology. But 5 men should not be able to take out 500 people of anything.
You said this was French men. You're talking about okay.
French soldiers, yeah.
Yeah.
With the Gerudo tribe, the one that Viola Davis movie is based on.
Right.
Yeah, and do you know why that war was happening?
I'd like to know. Tell me, please.
Here's the irony. The French were going to stop slavery. That's what the war with them was about.
Wow.
Yeah, they went to war with France to protect their slave trade.
Well, the interesting thing, like, I want to add on that point there, is like you have people like Tariq Fradshid, who's married to a mulatto woman, but he makes his pseudo-historical documentaries in quotations called Hidden Colors, right? Mm-hmm. And in one of his DVDs, his documentaries, he's literally saying it wasn't black people selling other blacks to be slaves. It was the mulattoes. It was Loncondos who were working with the Europeans to sell blacks to be slaves. So you see that how they're rewriting history to fit their narrative, to put a target on our back to say, look, you can't trust these half-breeds. They're working with the whites, while secretly, I mean, we see it today. I've had my wake-up call, my epiphany. I'm seeing a lot of these blacks, they're working with whites against mulattoes to try to destabilize us as a group. And I'm going to get into a lot more of that in the future on the channel. But no, I just wanted to point that out as far as you're talking about the history where these 6 Frenchmen were trying to stop the slavery, because Viola Davis is blacker than a Black Panther, whereas black people trying to enforce slavery. But if you let pro-blacks say it, they'll say it was, Loncondos and mulattoes who were responsible for all the ill.
Have you ever seen The Last King of Scotland?
Yeah, it's been a while though. I saw it a while ago. Yeah.
There's a couple things I wanted to point out. So the movie Roots, the documentary series.
I've seen a few of episodes, but not the whole series. Yeah.
So it's complete fake. Even the person who wrote it, Dr. something or other, I can't remember his name, said he wrote it that way to give the black people a myth to believe in. But that's not the story at all. It was a completely fictional story. So white people weren't going into Europe or into Africa to get slaves. They weren't even going there to buy them. It was Arabs who were doing that and selling them. Arabs were buying them from other black people, black Africans, and selling them eventually in the States. The States wasn't even the largest place for slaves. Do you know that? They had to go, the ships would go to South America, then the Caribbean, and then the leftovers went to the States.
Right.
That's why there's such a huge black population in the islands in South America. It's like Colombia is like 30% black.
Right. Yeah. Like, on the coast. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So all the South American countries have large black populations.
Except for Argentina.
Brazil is huge.
Except for Argentina and Chile.
Well, Argentina was intentional.
Yeah, intentional. Yeah.
They were at like, I think it was 40%, and then within 20 years they were down to 3%. Yeah, that's got to be intentional.
Yeah, it was intentional. Yeah, they had a lot of
Nazis went over there after the Second World War, and that changed a lot.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so it's it's these false stories are creating a lot of these issues that people want to believe. And now you have like people when Shonda Rhimes first was doing Bridgerton, yeah, whatever, it was fun, like fine. Everyone's like, oh, Queen Charlotte, sure, it would have been like 400 years earlier if she had any black in her at all, but she might have had some color in her down the line, sure, like 7 generations up, but sure. But then you had Anne Boleyn next, and the problem is people are not realizing that these are just fictional movies and shows. People are believing that these are facts. And then you have Cleopatra, where it's released as a documentary, ignoring the fact that we have pictures of Queen Cleopatra on money, that we have busts made of her all over the place. There's even paintings of her. And it's like, no, 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 we're just going to ignore all that because your grandmother told you a story.
I know, that's funny. That old lady. It's like, her
But
grandmother.
do you know that old lady? That was no accident. If you ever look her up on like her like Wikipedia or whatever,
Yeah. Uh huh.
she is known for revisionist history.
Oh, jeez.
It's her career is to do that. So it wasn't even that she was just literally just saying, "Oh, my grandmother told me." That was an intentional story she tried to try and sell her story. Like it's actual. It was. They knew that they were lying. They were doing the Roots thing where they were trying to create a narrative, just like how Native Americans apparently were originally black. They
I
were the
know.
first ones.
I know. Fugazi. Yeah, straight up.
Why? Why do this? It's like establish your own culture and community and pride.
Be proud of it. Yeah, man.
And it's like they can't be proud of themselves when it takes someone else's history, but then they won't let us be us either.
That's the thing, is they don't want us to be us. Because I never hear Latinos, I never hear Asian, Arabic people, or Anglo-Saxon white people who tell me that I'm not mulatto, that I'm not biracial, I'm not mixed. They've never heard them say there's no such thing as mixed.
No,
It's always been one specific demographic who always tries to tell me the same bullshit that I've already been hearing the past couple years. We're all mixed. There's no such thing as mixed. You're not mulatto. I mean, it's insane. So yeah,
I'm actually happier that in the '80s it was hard. It was really hard to be mulatto in the '80s. We weren't cool yet until the '90s. But in the '80s, I was actually happier with how white people dealt with it than how black people dealt with it. Well, black people then, I was happier with how they dealt with it because they weren't really claiming us so much. They were just kind of like, yeah, you're whatever. They didn't care. White people were calling us abominations. They weren't trying to claim us. And that was, honestly, the honesty of it was better than them trying to claim us or tell us that we were black. They didn't care what we were. They just didn't want us to claim being white. That was it. And I prefer it that way, honestly. It's not nice, but it was they weren't trying to tell me what I was. They were just trying to make sure I knew what I wasn't.
interesting. Interesting.
And there's an honesty to that. It's like just don't try to say you're white. It's like, no, I'm not. Don't worry. And don't try to date our daughters.
Yeah, yeah, man. And the mate guarding aspect is very interesting because, like I said, this whole in grouping, out grouping, and selecting which ones get the kind of pookie hall pass and the little fake ass black card they hand out every cookout. It's interesting because, yeah, like a lot of times the same pro blacks, they'll pick the women. They're like, okay, like Tariq Nasheed, he's the number one grifter in their pro black circles. Oh yeah, the mixed the mulatto women, they're good, they're black. But if it's a dude, they're like, oh no, he ain't shit. He got a white mom, you can't trust him, or he got a white dad, I don't trust him. He ain't black. It's very interesting.
It's also interesting. Black women love me. Black women don't yell at me. It's black guys who yell at me
Mhm.
generally. Um,
They don't. None of them yell at me because I'm not in their little hood or in their circles.
well,
Like,
no, when I say yell, I'm talking about like social media yelling.
yeah, right. Through the
Like in
computer screen.
person, not many people yell at me. I'm not the smallest person,
Yeah.
so I don't worry about that. But like, yeah, black women they'd just be like, "Oh, I love your light eyes." And it's like you could just call them green, but I'll take the light eyes.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I've worked with a lot of different black women, in the field. Yeah, I've worked with a lot of black men. I get along with a lot of people. I think I'm very cordial and diplomatic. but I'm a realist, and I think a lot of people, they don't like the blunt nature of my delivery, and I'm very real. But I feel like I'm kind of easy to get along with. So I think both sexes, both genders within the Black American group, I feel like I get along with both of them. It's all depends on the individual, right? But I don't like ghetto people. I mean, I try to distance myself from people who are kind of lower tiered. So I guess in a way, I am maybe a classist per
That
se.
that's not classist. Do you remember? Sorry to interrupt you, but you might have seen Chris Rock, one of his shows, where
Which
he
one?
where he's like, when I'm at the bank machine, I'm not looking over my shoulder for white people. And I'm not looking. I'm not. I don't hate. I love black people. What I hate are, well, N words. Like but he's just like, and they're proud of it. They're happy to be dumb. They're happy to be stupid. And it's like, why? Why? It's like, I'm never. If I see a group of white people walking, I'm not worried. If I see a group of black people, I have to take a second look. And this is Chris Rock saying this.
Yeah, yeah. Some truths, some harsh truths.
Yeah, and it's
Basically.
just, well, like I mentioned the Chicago situation earlier, where the Chicago Walmarts were being just looted daily. And finally, they said they're closing them because they're just not making money because they're getting robbed too much. Like, you have people walking in, filling up garbage bags and walking out. And like not even running, just walking out. Like, they didn't care. And I've seen videos of people, like even black people, walking around saying, "Oh my God, look at this Walmart. Everything's gone except the vegetables." And like the whole store is just completely trashed. And now Walmart's closing their stores.
No vegetables, huh? Damn. That's
Yeah,
the white man's. It's a white man's fault too, right there.
yeah. Well,
No,
so many times, like if you're fat or obese or whatever, that's
it's the white
white
man's fault.
supremacy.
Yeah.
Well, 2 plus 2 is white supremacy. 2 plus 2
Too many,
equals 4 is white supremacy, apparently.
too many convenience stores and McDonald's. That's environmental racism and white supremacy. Yeah, if you let these people tell the story, I mean, but
Of
yeah,
course. Not that, 50 years ago, the black community was a strong community where people didn't look over their shoulder when they walked around at night. There weren't shootings all over the place. What happened there? What
Degener-
happened?
degeneracy of culture and no accountability. No accountability. They had social welfare programs where they can leech off the state, just rely on the.
Eisenhower.
Yeah, Eisenhower, even with FDR, the New Deal, a lot of these programs started. It's just no accountability, and everything is the mulatto's fault. Everything is white people's fault, and people are tired of hearing that shit. Everything is always someone else's fault for why they can't perform. But you can have a Mexican who crosses the border with only 2 fucking pesos in his pocket. Within 10 years, he can work his ass off. He can buy a house, put his family in the house, have enough money to send his kids off to college. All these other groups around the planet seem to have a plan to be able to do that in America. But yet we have this one demographic who wants to try to hold us back. And, they can do it with a lot of these coward mulattoes, but not me. They'll try to hold us back, right? Tell us that, well, it's because of white supremacy. So you want to blame my mom for why you're a fucking failure and a loser? That's my mom's fault. I'm supposed to be guilty about who I am, my heritage, because you can't perform out here. I'm not playing games, but yeah, go ahead.
The excuses are just the number one problem.
No
And
accountability. Yeah.
yeah, like, to put it in perspective, in my family, you might have heard me say this before, but in my family, there's a joke that my mother's family may have owned my father's family at a different point, and it's literally true. It's a possibility because of what my mother's family did have a plantation in the Caribbean. This is not exactly sure where, but it was in the general area. Um, and but it's not like there's no hatred about it. It's just a joke. Like, if I said that in front of my black family, they just laugh. I said that in front of my white family, they might be a little more embarrassed. But like, there's no hatred about it because it's 300 years ago, and it's done. Like, my father was the 10th of 11 children.
Wow. That's
My
a big,
grandfather.
it's a
Sorry,
big
go ahead.
family. I was sorry to interrupt. It's a big
Oh,
family.
it's fine.
Yeah.
He was the 10th of 11 children. My grandfather died when he was 7. And he was the first one to leave the Caribbean. He went to England because it was still like when I was born, St. Vincent was still a colony. It wasn't independent yet.
Interesting. Okay.
Not till '79.
Okay.
And he went when he was 21. So that would have been like 1960. He moved to England on his own. He got there with 20 EC, which is like, I don't know, £5, which is the UK dollar. And within a year, he'd opened up a dry cleaner, like a dry cleaning service, from nothing. He got there with nothing, had no family there yet. He actually brought over about 12 relatives to England. And then when he moved here, he brought all his brothers and sisters to Canada. And then he helped them get to the States eventually. They went from the islands to Canada and then to the States in Washington and Florida and Maryland. And he was able to do this with starting from nothing. Why was he able to do it? Why can people move to the States who don't even speak the language and they can turn their lives around? And it's not a racial thing because African people do it all the time.
I know. Nigerians, yeah.
Nigerians, Ugandans, Ghanans,
yeah,
like South Africans, all like I've met people from all over Africa. Just specifically about Black sub-Saharan Africa, and they've come from all over, and they just come. They work hard, like their kids work hard in school. They're not out causing trouble. They're not out getting in trouble. They're just because their parents are just like, no, you need to do right. My father made sure I went to school. My father would I didn't get beat for getting in trouble. I got beat for getting anything less than a B.
Right. That's very customary within a lot of East Asian cultures, and you wonder why their academic excellence is above everyone else. Like I had a Filipino next door neighbor growing up who's the same scenario. His mom was a nurse, his father was an architect. They're both from the Philippines. He's American born. He's like a doctorate program now. I believe he's probably already has his doctorate. But the guy who used to tell me that, oh yeah, if he got a less than a B on his report card, these are real stories. I mean, he pretty much get a beating, unfortunately, but that
I don't look back at my beatings as a bad thing.
Right, it's discipline. Some cultures they look at it differently, but it's discipline, right? Yeah,
but I disagree with one thing. It's not just Asian. It's not East Asian. It's everybody but North Americans. That's the honest truth. Like my family in England, like my white family in England, my black family in England, my brother lives in England. They all get good grades. They all work hard, and it's unacceptable if you don't. It's in most of Europe, it's the same thing. In Africa, it's the same thing. In Asia, it's just not North America. In the Caribbean, same thing. But trust me, in the Caribbean, if you're getting C's and D's, you are getting a community whooping, not just a home whooping. You're getting a community whooping.
Damn.
It's not too many excuses are made because of race. Way too many.
Yeah.
And like with our community, we're doing pretty good mostly.
We don't have
no too many mulattoes that like, I know some, but there's a large group of mulattoes are doing better than.
Oh yeah.
Like if you compare it to not as good as whites, but better than blacks in terms of accomplishment.
And the thing is, when we do good, they want to count us as black. Like that's why if we have our own racial classification, we can be properly calculated and represented.
Get Halle Berry back.
Her and everybody else, man. Vin Diesel and all the rest of them. That's just a motion picture Hollywood business, but I'm talking about the doctors, the attorneys.
But that's what we need. We need the celebrities.
Yeah.
We need the celebrities to self-identify properly.
Right. They bring visibility and they'll inspire and encourage other people. That's why I was so happy when I asked Adele James. I'm like, look, I want to promote this because there's going to be other people out here. And a lot of people I shared it with, they liked it, especially the mulatto women. They're like, yes, because people want to see that. They reaffirm. They need to see these highly visible actors and actresses self-identify as who they truly are and not hide, right?
I loved her answer. Like when you asked what were the advantages and disadvantages,
Yeah, no
I love the other.
disadvantage.
Like she said, some advantages. Yeah, that's fair enough. Like we'll be more accepted than the black community, and I understand that. That is an advantage, I guess.
Hmm.
But when they asked what's the disadvantage, she said none.
Yeah,
Just, like you could say, well, we get shit on by the black community a lot, but
just move away from them if you don't
yeah,
have, you know.
it's not happening in my face. It's happening online to a bunch of people who are just keeping it
Right.
quiet. And I don't. Who are they? Like,
That's what
I'm
it was.
not.
Yeah, that's what it is because like I've lived in like in Las Vegas, several different areas with the time I was living there. And even when I was in San Diego, like yeah, I had a black roommate. I was in San Diego and I moved out to a different area. I didn't live around a lot of blacks, and yeah, I just changed the environment. Same thing in Las Vegas. I had a black next door neighbor, and it was a shitty experience. I moved and went to a different area, much more peaceful. So it's like, yeah, I get out of these bad environments. I don't surround myself in these circles around people who are hostile to me. Um, so that's, so it's not really an issue for me. I just change my environment. There's no disadvantages, right? That I can think of. Some people will try to convince you that you'll have identity issues as if every group on the planet has these issues. They want to act like we're a special charity case, that we're so different that
We're so lucky they accept us at all.
yeah, that we should be thankful that the blacks, compared to all these other groups, that they'll accept us. I'm like, okay, we need to accept ourselves. And this is 2023, guys. Okay, this isn't 1960. I know people want to romanticize slavery and the civil rights and all that shit. We're in 2023 with all the information out here and mass transportation. We can connect with people, network, and build. No excuses. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there's no reason for anybody not to be accomplished. Like, okay, so who's the richest black person in the states?
Robert Smith, married to a white woman, has mulatto
What?
kids.
Now he's the real estate agent, right?
Yes. Yeah.
What's his parents?
I
Look
don't
it
know
up.
exactly.
Look
Okay.
it up. He's a mulatto.
Oh shit, really?
Yep. It's not just Obama. It's not just Halle Berry. It's not just Bob Marley.
Robert Smith?
Yeah, I watched a documentary on him, and
Did not know that.
yeah, like it could be.
Rita, his mom is Rita. Is his mother white or his father
I,
white?
I I don't honestly remember, but I remember I'm like, what? He's mixed and they're calling him black when they were showing his family and everything.
Well, even Alicia Keys.
Well,
People are
Alicia
trying to.
Keys,
She has a
but
white mom, and it's like
yeah,
they're trying
but
to say
she doesn't really deal with anything. She doesn't call herself black. She doesn't call herself mixed. She doesn't call herself anything. Not that I've seen anyway. Then you have someone like Zendaya, who, come on, Zendaya doesn't even look black.
I know.
Like she's not black passing. That's like calling me black passing. I'm not black passing, but like she'll call herself a black woman. It's like really? You
Yeah,
think that's what's going
Zendaya.
on?
Yeah. Yeah, she doesn't look black. I don't know. She's tripping.
She doesn't look light skinned black. She doesn't look black. She looks like Pacific Islander more than anything. A little skinny
Yeah.
for that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, she has a kind of unique look. I know a lot of people kind of say that she's like mid. I don't know. There's so many fine mulattas. I like the curly haired ones. I don't know if her hair naturally curly or she straightens it. I don't know, but
Yeah, well, I think you know in our exclusively mixed group, my two favorites.
yeah. Well, even like on Instagram or whatever the platforms, some of the chicks. I mean, I like the straight haired ones too. I'm just saying I like the curls. I'm definitely a fan of.
I'll automatically like my first choice will always be someone that looks like me, like the olive skin, the colored eyes, the curly hair. That's because it's just that's what you look for someone like yourself first. Like that's just the whole identity thing.
Right.
But I rarely, if I had to pick any race, mulattoes are the most beautiful people of
Yeah,
all the
for sure.
colorings, all the color options. Like, and it's you could say, well, yeah, everyone just thinks they're own racist. No, not everyone thinks. Most people think mulattoes are some of the most beautiful people in the world,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, for sure.
and that's why
I
we gotta celebrate it. Why, don't be ashamed of it. We gotta celebrate who we are.
yeah, man. And I think, yeah, with me, that's very simple. I mean, this is my whole platform's dedicated to that. But what I'm seeing with other people is a lot of them feel kind of ashamed to celebrate
Guilty.
it, right? It's
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 not a
very
shame. Not ashamed,
Guilty. They
guilty.
feel guilty. Yeah, guilt. Yeah,
Because it's like, oh, if by celebrating me, I'm shitting on the black community. No, you're not. You're celebrating you. Like, if you don't look at that you're shitting on the white community, don't think you're shitting on the black community either,
right.
because
Because they don't
you're
give a damn.
both.
Yeah, because the thing is, a lot of times they feel like it's socially acceptable to downplay white people or whiteness, to take shots at that, but then black people, they don't want to do that. And it's like, the thing is, I never see white people ashamed to uphold, like white men uphold their women as a standard, or white women upholding white men as a standard. They're never ashamed about doing that. And the same thing with with these other monoracial groups, like, Asian, but also black people specifically. They're always talking about my melanin's popping. You have black women who are like, ooh, I want that dark chocolate, man. I want the dark skin, all that. And that's fine. That's okay. But see, when you have a guy like me who prefers mulatto women, or if you have mulatto women who prefer mulatto men, I don't want to hear any of these other groups run their mouth trying to tell us that we shouldn't embrace ourselves and celebrate. It's like this cat right here says, I agree as well. He says mulattoes and mestizas. Yeah, for sure. That's typically, those are the two groups of women that for sure. Yeah.
Like, I've always preferred, like, it doesn't matter even the race, but because obviously mulattoes weren't really around me, but women who were like my color, women who were like of all races, like the ones who were a little bit darker. If they're, it's funny I say this, yet both, like the two women I had children with were the whitest things with the blondest hair, and but I don't know, the ones aside from those two, all the women I've dated in my life are nothing like that. Like the women I generally date, they're more of like an olive skin. They're more of like brunette, with well, brown or green eyes or blue eyes, whatever. But like, that's the majority. The people who could not necessarily pass for mulatto, but were in that framework, would generally what I would do, like who I would be most attracted to.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm
I
on the
always
same.
wish, like when I was single last time, I was trying so hard to find a mulatto to date. It's
if
just
we if we create a website, I mean, I know they had Black Planet, which was a black romance dating website created by a mulatto guy. He married a mulatto woman. He found his love, his partner, but he created a dating website for black people to get together. But I'm like, but this guy's a mulatto cat. I talked about it on this channel before, but I know, I speculate, if we develop a mulatto or mixed race kind of a
it'll be
dating app.
banned. It'll
Well,
be
not only,
banned.
not just that, I don't know if they'll be banned per se, because they have black dating sites and white or
Doesn't matter,
Christian.
because if we
They'll
exclude black
bombard it.
people, it'll be
Yeah,
banned.
they'll bombard it though. It's going to be black men specifically who will bombard our website to basically try to get all the mulatto women. I mean, when you see them in our spaces, we create spaces for us. Who is the main people trying to infringe upon our spaces? It's
Well,
not black
there's only
women.
one that's trying to infringe on it.
It's not black women. I don't see black women. I mean, unless they get brought in. I have
Mm.
black women who watch my content and comment. I
Well, you
have
should
no.
see it. I had a nice argument with a black woman on your channel, although she did look rather light skinned.
Was it TikTok, or is it TikTok or?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
TikTok one.
different audiences, because I'm still growing that thing. It's small TikTok, but over here I have a couple black women. They haven't been on a panel or anything yet, but they comment and watch this stuff. But mainly, I see. Oh, you're watching a replay or something?
No, I was just checking the name. I pull up one of your videos. Don't.
Oh, the TikTok. Yeah, yeah. No, what I was saying is that the main culprits, what I see here on YouTube, on this YouTube social media page, are like black men, who want to kind of infringe. It's just because recently there was some guy who was pretending to be mixed. And I'm like, that's some coward shit. Why can't you just be proud to be a black man? And like, I don't respect you if you don't like who you are and you want to fabricate an identity to try to weasel your way in here so you can leech off us and get the women. Like, I don't respect that at all. And
My
so
sister. My sister's always dated black men.
I see guys that do that more so than women. That's just me personally, my experimentation. But yeah.
But say my sister, she's like, I don't think since high school she's dated anybody that wasn't black.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that happens a lot. My sister went the opposite way. My
And she
sister,
only
yeah,
dated white.
Latino, yeah, Hispanic, I should say more specifically.
My brother only dated white.
Yeah, actually, both of my siblings, even for me, I mean, most of the chicks that I've been with have been Mexican women and white women. But yeah, I think because of the environment too, where I come from, me and my family are from California. So most of our kind of partners, our relationships with me and my siblings have all been with the Latino group, Mexican. For me and my brother, it's been Mexican, but my sister, it's other, well, Mexican and other like Hispanic groups. So it's
My
just, I
older
think,
sister lives in
environment.
California.
Your older sister?
Yeah, my oldest, she's full black, but she lives in California.
Yeah, the weather's perfect, man. I mean,
Well,
compared to
she's in
anywhere else,
Salinas, so it's not quite as nice.
there's nothing out there except for a big jail correctional facility. That's when
She's
I
a
hear.
teacher, but
So
she said they have a lot of lettuce out there. That's all I know about it. They have a lot of lettuce.
yeah,
That's where your lettuce farmers are. I have no idea. I've never been there.
yeah, man. I grew up around the coast in Orange County, so it's definitely the place to be out there. But yeah, man, we're up on a 2 hour mark. Kind of
Oh
wanna.
yeah, time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, for sure. It's been really fun. A lot of people are starting to jump in now, but yeah, man, it's been really fun. I'd love to continue to do this. We could set something up another time. Obviously, we have direct contact, so we can continue
Well,
this
I'm going to be setting up a channel eventually on
for sure.
YouTube myself. So yeah, we can definitely do that, and I'd enjoy this. If we had a panel, it'd be even more interesting.
Yeah, man, for sure. Anytime, you're always welcome over here. And like I said, I really appreciate your engagement. You're like a soldier because, like I said, I don't have the patience for a lot of these TikTokers, and I'm just like, a lot of times I block them or I just ignore their comments. But I see you, man. I look at my notifications. You're like going back and forth with each comment. So I commend you for that. I'm like, nice. I got some backup reinforcements here because,
Well, I appreciate you creating the space in the first place. So
yes, it's trust, man.
you
It's
create the
trust.
space, I'll keep it strong.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
No problem. Well, have yourself a great night. We'll talk soon, and good night to everybody listening. And yeah, take care.
Cool, man. Peace out. And peace to the chat. Respect to the chat. Everybody listen on the playback, the replay. Make sure you guys hit the like button, and your support is greatly appreciated. And until next time, people, sayonara.